Saint Augustine on the Most Holy Trinity, Book 13, Chapter 2. Content of Chapter 2. Faith, a thing of the heart, not of the body. How it is common and one and the same in all believers. The faith of believers is one, no otherwise than the will of those who will is one. But faith, of which we are compelled by reason of the arrangement of our subject to dispute somewhat more at length in this book, faith, I say, which they who have called the faithful and they who have not, and believers as were those who did not receive the Son of God coming to his own, although it is wrought in us by hearing, yet does not belong to that sense of the body which is called hearing, since it is not a sound, nor to the eyes of this our flesh, since it is neither color nor bodily form, nor to that which is called touch, since it has nothing of bulk, nor to any sense of the body at all, since it is a thing of the heart, not of the body. Nor is it without a part from us, but deeply seated within us. Nor does any man see it in another, but each one in himself. Lastly, it is a thing that can both be feigned by pretense and be thought to be in him in whom it is not. Therefore, everyone sees his own faith in himself, but does not see, but believes that it is in another, and believes this the more firmly, the more he knows the fruits of it, which faith is wont to work by love. Galatians chapter 5, verse 6. And therefore, this faith is common to all of whom the evangelist subjoins, but as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Common, I say, not as many form of a bodily object is common, as regards sight, to the eyes of all to whom it is present, for in some way the gaze of all that behold it is informed by the same one form. But as the human countenance can be said to be common to all men, for this is so said that yet each certainly has his own. We say certainly with perfect truth that the faith of believers is impressed from one doctrine upon the heart of each several person who believes the same thing. But that which is believed is a different thing from the faith by which it is believed. For the former is in things which are said either to be, or to have been, or to be about to be, but the latter is in the mind of the believer and is visible to him only whose it is, although not indeed itself, but a faith like it is also in others. For it is not one in number but in kind. Yet, on account of the likeness and the absence of all difference, we rather call it one than many. For when we see two men exceedingly alike, we wonder and say that both have one countenance. It is therefore more easily said that the souls were many, a several soul, of course, for each several person, of whom we read in the Acts of the Apostles that they were of one soul, Acts 4:32. Than it is where the Apostle speaks of one faith, Ephesians 4:5. For anyone to venture to say that there are as many faiths as they are faithful. And yet he who says, O woman, great is thy faith, Matthew 15:28. And to another, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? Matthew 14:31, intimates that each has his own faith. But the like faith of believers is said to be one in the same way as a like will of those who will is said to be one, since in the case also of those who have the same will, the will of each is visible to himself, but that of the other is not visible, although he wills the same thing. And if it intimate itself by any signs, it is believed rather than seen. But each being conscious of his own mind certainly does not believe, but manifestly sees outright that this is his own will. Chapter 3. Some desires being the same in all are known to each. The poet Ennius. There is indeed so closely conspiring a harmony in the same nature living and using reason, that although one knows not what the other wills, yet there are some wills of all which are also known to each. And although each man does not know what any other one wills, yet in some things he may know that all will. And hence comes that story of the comic actor's witty joke, who promised that he would say in the theatre, in some other play, what all had in their minds and what all willed. And when a still greater crowd had come together on the day appointed, with great expectation, all being in suspense and silent, is affirmed to have said, You will to buy sheep and sell deer. And mean actor though he was, yet all in his words recognized what themselves were conscious of, and applauded him with wonderful goodwill, for saying before the eyes of all what was confessedly true, yet what no one looked for. And why was so great expectation raised by his promising that he would say what was the will of all, unless because no man knows the wills of other men? But did not he know that will? Is there anyone who does not know it? Yet why, unless because there are some things which not unfitly each conjectures from himself to be in others, through sympathy or agreement, either in vice or virtue? But it is one thing to see one's own will, another to conjecture, however certainly, what is another's. For in human affairs I am as certain that Rome was built as that Constantinople was, although I have seen Rome with my eyes, but know nothing of the other city, except what I have believed on the testimony of others. And truly that comic actor believed it to be common to all to will to buy sheep and sell deer, either by observing himself or by making experiment also of others. But since such a will is in truth a fault, every one can attain the counter virtue, or run into the mischief of some other fault which is contrary to it, whereby to resist and conquer it. For I myself know a case where a manuscript was offered to a man for purchase, who perceived that the vendor was ignorant of its value, and was therefore asking something very small, and who thereupon gave him, though not expecting it, the just price, which was much more. Suppose even the case of a man possessed with wickedness so great as to sell cheap what his parents left to him, and to buy dear, in order to waste it on his own lusts. Such wanton extravagance, I fancy, is not incredible, and if such men are sought, they may be found, or even fall in one's way, although not sought. who by a wickedness more than that of the theatre make a mock of the theatrical proposition or declaration by buying dishonor at a great price while selling lands at a small one. We have heard too of persons that, for the sake of distribution, have bought corn at a higher price and sold it to their fellow citizens at a lower one. And note also what the old poet Ennius has said, that all mortals wish themselves to be praised, wherein doubtless he conjectured what was in others, both by himself and by those whom he knew by experience, and so seems to have declared what it is that all men will. Lastly, if that comic actor himself too had said, "You all will to be praised, no one of you wills to be abused," he would have seemed in like manner to have expressed what all will. Yet there are some who hate their own faults and do not desire to be praised by others for that for which they are displeased with themselves, and who thank the kindness of those who rebuke them, when the purpose of that rebuke is their own amendment. But if he had said, "You all will to be blessed, you do not will to be wretched," he would have said something which there is no one that would not recognize in his own will. For whatever else a man may be secretly, he does not withdraw from that will which is well known to all men and well known to be in all men. Chapter 4. The will to possess blessedness is one in all, but the variety of wills is very great concerning that blessedness itself. It is wonderful, however, since the will to obtain and retain blessedness is one in all, whence comes on the other hand such a variety and diversity of wills concerning that blessedness itself. Not that anyone is unwilling to have it, but that all do not know it. For if all knew it, it would not be thought by some to be in goodness of mind, by others in pleasure of body, by others in both, and by some in one thing, by others in another. For as men find special delight in this thing or that, so have they placed in it their idea of a blessed life. How then do all love so warmly what not all know? Who can love what he does not know? A subject which I have already discussed in the preceding books. Why, therefore, is blessedness loved by all when it is not known by all? Is it perhaps that all know what it is itself, but all do not know where it is to be found, and that the dispute arises from this? As if, forsooth, the business was abound some place in this world, where every one ought to will to live, who wills to live blessedly, and as if the question where blessedness is were not implied in the question what it is. For certainly, if it is in the pleasure of the body, he is blessed who enjoys the pleasure of the body. If in goodness of mind he has it who enjoys this. If in both, he who enjoys both. When therefore one says to live blessedly is to enjoy the pleasure of the body, but another to live blessedly is to enjoy goodness of mind, is it not that either both know or both do not know what a blessed life is? How then do both love it, if no one can love what he does not know? Or is that perhaps false which we have assumed to be most true and most certain, viz., that all men will to live blessedly? For if to live blessedly is for argument's sake to live according to goodness of mind, how does he will to live blessedly who does not will this? Should we not say more truly that man does not will to live blessedly, because he does not wish to live according to goodness, which alone is to live blessedly. Therefore, all men do not will to live blessedly. On the contrary, few wish it. If to live blessedly is nothing else but to live according to goodness of mind, which many do not will to do, shall we then hold that to be false of which the academic Cicero himself did not doubt, although academics doubt everything, who when he wanted in the dialogue Hortensius to find some certain thing of which no one doubted, from which to start his argument, says, "We certainly all will to be blessed." Far be it from me to say this is false, but what then? Are we to say that although there is no another way of living blessedly, that living according to goodness of mind, yet even he who does not will this wills to live blessedly? This indeed seems too absurd, for it is much as if we should say, even he who does not will to live blessedly, wills to live blessedly. Who could listen to, who could endure such a contradiction? And yet necessity thrusts us into this strait. If it is both true that all will to live blessedly, and yet all do not do not will to live in that way in which alone one can live blessedly. Chapter 5 of the same thing. Or is perhaps the deliverance from our difficulties to be found in this, that, since we have said that everyone places his idea of a blessed life in that which has not pleased him, as pleasure pleased Epicurus, and goodness Zeno, and something else pleased other people, we say that to live blessedly is nothing else but to live according to one's own pleasure, so that it is not false that all will to live blessedly, because all will that which pleases each. For if this too had been proclaimed to the people in the theatre, all would have found it in their own wills. But when Cicero too had propounded this in opposition to himself, he so refuted it as to make them blush who thought so. For he says, "But behold, people who are not indeed philosophers, but who yet are prompt to dispute, say that all are blessed, whoever live as they will," which is what we mean by "as pleases each." But by and by he has subjoined, "But this is indeed false, for to will what is not fitting is itself most miserable. Neither is it so miserable not to obtain what one wills, as to will to obtain what one ought not." Most excellently and altogether most truly does he speak. For who can be so blind in his mind, so alienated from all light of decency, and wrapped up in the darkness of indecency, as to call him blessed, because he lives as he will, who lives wickedly and disgracefully, and with no one restraining him, no one punishing, and no one daring even to blame him, nay more too, with most people praising him, since as divine scripture says, "The wicked is praised in his heart's desire, and he who works iniquity is blessed." Psalm 10 verse 3. Gratifies all his most criminal and flagitious desires, when doubtless, although even so he would be wretched, yet he would be less wretched if he could have had nothing of those things which he had wrongly willed. For every one is made wretched by a wicked will also, even though it stop short with will, but more wretched by the power by which the longing of a wicked will is fulfilled. And therefore, since it is true that all men will to be blessed, and that they seek for this one thing with the most ardent love, and on account of this seek everything which they do seek, nor can any one love that of which he does not know at all what or of what sort it is, nor can be ignorant what that is which he knows that he wills. It follows that all know a blessed life, but all that are blessed have what they will, although not all who have what they will are forthwith blessed, but they are forthwith wretched, who either have not what they will, or have that which they do not rightly will. Therefore, he only is a blessed man who both has all things which he wills, and wills nothing ill. Chapter 6. Why when all will to be blessed, that is rather chosen by which one withdraws from being so? Since then a blessed life consists of these two things and is known to all and dear to all, what can we think to be the cause why, when they can't have both, men choose out of these two to have all things that they will, rather than to will all things well, even although they do not have them? Is it depravity itself of the human race, in such wise that, while they are not unaware that neither is he blessed who has not what he wills, nor he who has what he wills wrongly, but he who both has whatsoever good things he wills, and wills no evil ones, yet, when both are not granted of those two things in which the blessed life consists, that is, rather chosen by which one is withdrawn, the more from a blessed life, since he certainly is further from it who obtains things which he wickedly desired, than he who only does not obtain the things which he desired. Whereas the good will ought rather to be chosen and to be preferred, even if it do not obtain the things which it seeks. For he comes near to being a blessed man, who wills well whatsoever he wills, and wills things which when he obtains he will be blessed. And certainly not bad things but good make men blessed, when they do so make them. And of good things he already has something, and that too is something not to be lightly esteemed, namely, the very good will itself, who longs to rejoice in those good things of which human nature is capable, and not in the performance or the attainment of any evil, and who follows diligently and attains as much as he can, with a prudent, temperate, courageous, and right mind, such good things as are possible in the present miserable life, so as to be good even in evils, and when all evils have been put an end to, and all good things fulfilled, then to be blessed. Chapter 7. Faith is necessary, that man may at some time be blessed, which he will only attain in the future life. The blessedness of proud philosophers, ridiculous and pitiable. And on this account, faith, by which men believe in God, is above all things necessary in this mortal life, most full as it is of errors and hardships. For there are no good things whatever, and above all, not those by which anyone is made good, or those by which he will become blessed, of which any other source can be found, whence they come to man and are added to man, unless it be from God. But when he who is good and faithful in these miseries shall have come from this life to the blessed life, then will truly come to pass what now is absolutely impossible, namely, that a man may live as he will. For he will not will to live badly in the midst of that felicity, nor will he will anything that will be wanting, nor will there be wanting anything which he shall have willed. Whatever shall be loved will be present, nor will that be longed for which shall not be present. Everything which will be there will be good, and the Supreme God will be the supreme good and will be present for those to enjoy who love him. And what altogether is most blessed, it will be certain that it will be so forever. But now indeed philosophers have made for themselves, according to the pleasure of each, their own ideals of a blessed life, that they might be able, as it were, by their own power to do that which by the common conditions of mortals they were not able to do, namely, to live as they would, for they felt that no one could be blessed otherwise than by having what he would, and by suffering nothing which he would not. And who would not will that the life whatsoever it be, with which he is delighted, and which he therefore calls blessed, were so in his own power that he could have it continually? And yet, who is in this condition, who wills to suffer troubles in order that he may endure them manfully, although he both wills and is able to endure them if he does suffer them? Who would will to live in torments, even although he is able to live laudably, by holding fast to righteousness in the midst of them through patience? They who have endured these evils, either in wishing to have or in fearing to lose what they loved, whether wickedly or laudably, have thought of them as transitory. For many have stretched boldly through transitory evils to good things which will last. And these doubtless are blessed through hope, even while actually suffering such transitory evils, through which they arrived at good things which will not be transitory. But he who is blessed through hope is not yet blessed, for he expects through patience a blessedness which he does not yet grasp. Whereas he, on the other hand, who is tormented without any such hope, without any such reward, let him use as much endurance as he pleases, is not truly blessed, but bravely miserable. For he is not on that account not miserable, because he would be more so if he also bore misery impatiently. Further, even if he does not suffer those things which he would not will to suffer in his own body, not even then is he to be esteemed blessed, inasmuch as he does not live as he wills. For to omit other things which, while the body remains unhurt, belong to those annoyances of the mind without which he should will to live, and which are innumerable. He would will, at any rate, if he were able, so to have his body safe and sound, and so to suffer no inconveniences from it, as to have it within his own control, or even to have it with an imperishableness of the body itself. And because he does not possess this and hangs in doubt about it, he certainly does not live as he wills, for although he may be ready from fortitude to accept and bear with an equal mind whatever adversities may happen to him, yet he had rather they should not happen, and prevents them if he is able, and he is in such way ready for both alternatives, that, as much as is in him, he wishes for the one and shuns the other, and if he have fallen into that which he shuns, he therefore bears it willingly, because that could not happen which he willed. He bears it, therefore, in order that he may not be crushed, for he would not willingly be even burdened. How then does he live as he wills? Is it because he is willingly strong to bear what he would not will to be put upon him? then he only wills what he can, because he can't have what he wills. And here is the sum total of the blessedness of proud mortals. I know not whether to be laughed at, or not rather to be pitied, who boast that they live as they will, because they willingly bear patiently what they are unwilling should happen to them. For this, they say, is like Terence's wise saying, since that can't be which you will that which thou canst. That this is aptly said, who denies? But it is advice given to the miserable man, that he may not be more miserable. And it is not rightly or truly said to the blessed man, such as all wish themselves to be, that can't be which you will. For if he is blessed, whatever he wills can be, since he does not will that which can't be. But such a life is not for this mortal state, neither will it come to pass, unless when immortality also shall come to pass. And if this could not be given to all men, blessedness too would be sought in vain, since it can't be without immortality.